All right, all right, all right. What's up, folks? Let's get into it, man. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this genius, man. Genius, classic, stand up, piece put on by Dave Chappelle here on Netflix. Now, I caught this yesterday. I didn't watch it fall in the fight, but I'm glad I did catch it yesterday. And the genius behind this, man, incredible work, man, magnificent work. A lot of great subject matter that went into this stand up. And some historical stuff, man. As he tied many things up, bringing a lot of things back to center with historical references, just like bringing up the Mann Act and things like that, going into the Puff case, tying that into a law that was created to slow down and bring it into Jack Johnson's run with white women. His marriages to white women, traveling everywhere with them when it was outlaw, taboo in this racist society of seeing interracial marriages, and trying to enact a law in order to uh, 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 incarcerate this man. And this man, having to flee this country. I think, where did Jack go? To Cuba for a while, but he touched in on that history and bringing about this same 100-year-old law that was brought into play that was used against Puff. But he also spoke about how the government for 30 something years had followed this dude, and at the height of what they talk about, it was a big thing that was noted back in the 90s or early 2000s about the hip hop police. And this is being a special assignment, I believe, in the NYPD that was brought in to kind of target almost like some J. Edgar Hoover COINTELPRO type thing, but it was brought in to really surveil artists within the rap industry. But the main targets of that program were Puff and Big. And he was like he highlighted. So this dude went on for 30 goddamn years of them surveilling him. He was like, even when he'll go into clubs, he'll recognize that there'll be special type of lighting when he go into the club, and people warn him like, man, these are the FBI lights, so be careful and woo woo woo, whatever it is. And he like he say, I ain't got nothing to hide. I ain't worried about none of that shit or who radar I come up on. But they were really surveilling these guys and harassing them, and that's what even leads to where you got cats like Keefy D and them talking this and that about Puff being tied to the execution of Tupac and all this other stuff. But if these guys are sitting there surveilling him, keeping an eye on his movements and all this other crap, they would have been arrested this dude. And then even for the transporting women across state lines, violating this old wicked ass law that still remains on the books, that should have been scrapped. And this is some of kind of the incompetence of Congress, as Congress and their failures to remove archaic laws that are still in play, that goes to kind of a real ill side of American history. Laws that are meant to target people, and you have prosecutors that can take these type of acts in the court to try to rid society of people or to target certain people, and just doing things of which comes normal to people. And that's to be able to fly your women here, fly them there. And now it can be taken out of context, rewritten based on, kind of the parameters of this law. And now you're in violation of some crap. So they spoke about that. So in all those years, they never found anything on this dude, never arrested this guy for any of that. But something went wrong to where all of a sudden videos coming out and all this other stuff. And it led to the way he closed that damn comedy show with, man, a mic dropping moment of where he spoke about if he was ever co-opted by these people, and he got to speaking in ways that will shock people, saying things that aren't some of the things that he agrees on or any type of way that he would speak. And he stated his code word for the world to know, if he's been co-opted and forced to say things that he doesn't agree with, his code word would be, I stand with Israel. And boom, drop the mic, walk off the stage. Lovely moment. And then he highlighted some other things about Bill Maher, who speaks about what he say he sold his principles during the show, because a lot of comedians face backlash for going over to Saudi Arabia. Some of the PGA golfers face backlash going over there, and the highlight of a lot of what people give the backlash for is over the death of that journalist. But like Chappelle said, you guys bring up all this other stuff about what, he did say, it was a horrible thing what happened to Khashoggi, or whatever's the guy's name. And the fact that Bill Maher's saying he sold his principles going over there to perform a show in the Middle East in front of the Saudis. But none of them raised any issues about the atrocious ish that is taking place in Israel. No, how dare I say that? That is taking place in Palestine at the hands of Israelis, where 200 and something journalists have lost their lives, as Israel has deliberately targeted journalists, and Bill Maher and them don't speak one word or condemn this nation for their crimes against journalists. And he went in to speak about this double standard, the the hypocrisy in this country, and especially from people who have these media pulpits, who want to shift narratives and want to be, kind of righteous, dependent upon who is the victim and who is the suspect. And Chappelle was like, the hell with that, because one thing he was able to do over in Saudi Arabia was speak freely on the things he wanted to speak on. Unlike being here, to where a lot of these guys are blacklisted, they're censored, they're canceled. And like he said, when he made some statement about transgenders and how it caused backlash and people trying to write him off and all that other shit. Over in Saudi Arabia, he in there telling all type of tranny jokes. And then spoke about one with a hawk, where he takes the mask off a hawk, and his hawk flying down and strikes this person on top of the head, and the person passes out, and they damn shit pops out, and it's a tranny. And he said he ended up getting charged with murder and shit, or whatever it was. And he was telling people like, but y'all wonder how I'm here. They said the death of a tranny is a misdemeanor over Saudi Arabia, so he ended up being released or some crap. But he got into a lot of great talking points on there. He even talked about Dr. Sebi. He got talking about the moment he met Nipsey Hussle. He put Nipsey Hussle piece in there, and he got to speaking about people who believe in conspiracies. And the reason why he's saying, if you don't know, then just say you don't know. That's the same thing I'll be saying about conspiracy theorists. I can't stand listening to people who buy into conspiracy theories and they don't know shit. And that's what he was speaking on. He got to speaking about how people tie in Nipsey's death to a conspiracy about him making a film on Dr. Sebi. And he went a little bit into Dr. Sebi's history about where Dr. Sebi was coming out to have treated two guys who were HIV patients in the height of the AIDS crisis here in this country. I think in the early 80s. Oh no, what was the AIDS crisis in the late 80s or something, where he supposedly had treated these two guys, and he ended up facing prosecution or whatnot from the FDA or whoever it was, whatever agency was that targeted him, and brought on trial. And he ended up beating those two cases or whatnot. So he said one of his mentors was some comedian, some black comedian who was a comedian that rose through his street performances, him doing stand up on the streets. It ended up leading to where he ended up being brought on to Saturday Night Live for a short stint. But when Saturday Night Live found out that he couldn't read, they end up dropping him. And that's how Eddie Murphy ended up getting the opportunity over at Saturday Night Live. But he continued on his career working back on the streets and still, earning a little bit of fame or whatnot. But then he was talking about how this guy ended up contracting AIDS, through smoking crack and all that other stuff. And he said, so he was like, he got this true story. He took him to see Dr. Sebi, because after he seen him, he was like, knowing this dude battled with his drug addiction. He spoke about the comedian that ended up during his young periods, and as work his way up in comedy, how some veteran comic end up getting him hooked up on crack. And that's where his addiction began, being the guy mentoring him, telling him this is how you I don't know what was the use for the drugs, but this is how you, I guess, settle yourself or whatnot. This dude became a full blown drug addict from heroin to crack. And so when Dave Chappelle ends up seeing this dude, he's talking about how the guy looked bad, and he was thinking like, man, are you on that shit? Like, what's going on? Are you high? And the dude was like, no, I'm dying. And he was like dying. He's like, yeah, he got AIDS or whatnot. And Chappelle's like, what? So this is where the Dr. Sebi story ties into this, where he's like, so he ended up working with him. So he's like, man, I got somebody I'm gonna take you to. And Dave Chappelle spoke about taking him to Dr. Sebi. And he was like, a miracle happened. He's like, and I don't want to go in. He's like, I can turn this into a movie. But at the story, so he was like, it was something, a miracle happened. He was like, but at the end of it, he still died of AIDS. So he's just going on to this point of what people speak about, what they tie into Dr. Sebi being able to cure AIDS and this and that. And it was like, in his personal knowledge and ties into that shit is that a person who was brought to Dr. Sebi ended up still dying as a result of whatever his holistic treatments. It didn't work. The guy still passed away from it. But it was just a genius, a genius goddamn stand up comic session, man. And he doesn't try hard. He doesn't overdo it. Dave Chappelle is very relaxed. He takes his time. He's patient with it, but he touches on all sorts of aspects of life, all sorts of aspects. And then it was funny when you listen to certain things he will speak on, and then where you see the crowd where they're less celebratory and their laughter and cheers of certain shit, and a lot because it's a diverse crowd. And you heard less of the clapping and shit when he goes in about Israel and shit. And more people waking up to it. This is America. This is not Israel. This is not a Jewish state. This is not an anti-Semitic nation. The anti-Semitic stuff occurred with Germans. It occurred in the 20s. It's not happening in Palestine. Nobody has nothing out there for them. The targets here in America are black folks. It ain't no Jewish people. And then somehow these people get thrown in the forefront of what Americans face every day. And what Americans face every day ain't a Jewish damn thing. And regardless of what the economic ties are, that shit, America needs to shift past where our economics are controlled by a small portion of a population, a micro scale of the population that controls everything. I think there needs to be a lot that is rewritten. A lot of shit has to be rewritten inside of this country, and the control has to be taken away from the wealthy, the top 1% of the population. That little schematic scheme and all that other shit needs to be written away, and has to be written away through the use of the pen, the effective leadership and effective representation of people who are supposed to represent the people, not represent the corporations and the interest of Wall Street. That shit needs to die instantly. And it needs to die at like yesterday. And we see the problems. We see the problems start to really mount themselves. Also, this other thing that I come across yesterday, and I end up making a video on this. This is why I end up pushing time back. Is seeing this disgusting crap, and you see over in Turning Point, you talking about a co-opted ass person. That same thing I see with Nicki Minaj, who ended up being at this conference, her lining herself with the Trump regime and all that stuff, and it ain't gonna work well for her. Her career is over, so she's doing anything to get a what is that, a speaker fee type appearances for stuff because they're paying her for this stuff. But it ain't gonna work for Nicki Minaj. This Turning Point thing is gonna crash and burn. It's gonna end up falling apart. Turning Point doesn't represent America. It represents the delusionary people who have these little whiny ass mentalities who think they speak as a voice for all of American population, and it is not. The same people who come talking Israeli propagandist agendas and then think they can force every American to be in a line and supportive of Israel, the more modern colonial state here in the world. Like, nobody rocks with that. This is America. America has a history that it wants to ignore, fails to teach properly. And I think it's time for people to speak on that. Only educated folks, especially black folks, not you ignorant conspiracy theory believing ass buffoons who get also pulled and weld into these type of theories that spoke out about these people. And your assignment is to speak what they want you to speak. You see black people regurgitate this shit all day. But in this one, at this Turning Point USA, so if this stands out to anybody, or if anybody didn't see that last post I put up about this display here. So this display is a replica of the stage that Charlie was sitting on when he ended up getting smoked. And this is sitting outside that conference. And that little round thing that you see on the little tripod stand is one of them damn selfie cameras. So these wicked ass people who act like they're so for Charlie Kirk and they grieved over this dude and all this blah 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 wop 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 crap will sit this outside of a conference for participants of this little trash can event to take a selfie on a display where this dude was smoked by an assassin's weapon and think that's a way to honor him. They are sick as I don't know what. And they probably didn't even do anything on the inside to even pay homage to him. This little twisted chick he was involved with, I can't wait till the information leaks out about all the affairs she is tied into with laying on her back with these dudes. And the fact she's already jumped out here and have already started to advocate and endorse JD Vance, who everybody's already assuming she has an ongoing affair with. And I can't wait to see what. Then I'm hearing about how there's this infighting amongst people over at this trash ass organization, which doesn't represent America. It represents a segment of white America who wants to push off whatever their beliefs and agendas and their expansion of marginalization on the racial basis inside of America is what they want to push into the political system. And being this is a democratic system, majority rules, and they can con idiots and try to use Nicki Minaj, but they found the wrong black person as an influencer and representative to have other ignorant, uneducated, gullible blacks to follow a line with this organization, this representation, and they'll find it through blacks who are tied into the church and all that other stuff. It's one of the places where you find people are easily manipulate. You find them into religious organizations. It's the easiest people to dupe into anything is to find them into a religious organization. And that's just me speaking the truth. Regardless of whether it offends you religious nutcases or not. You're gullible, easy to use as tools, easy to con financially, and the list goes on. And historics are behind that of how easy it is to dupe and fool people who buy into the religious doctrinations of some other man. Say no words of God, saying spoken by God, to where you follow man and then led astray by these fools. It's the craziest thing you can ever find that people will start to buy into. But there's an intriguing side of society, being that we live amongst humans of all sorts of backgrounds, and you just look how easy it is for them to follow and then be fooled and tricked, and then they sit there and whine when things don't fall apart, and you listen to their stories as they speak about how they were led astray by these groups. Even when you look into the Jamestown situation with that Reverend Jim Jones, and how he led hundreds, close to almost 1,000 people from their lives to go move with him with off of their money, move with him to some old foreign country, and ended up not being nothing of a utopian dream that these people had been fooled into. It was just all about exploits, them giving all of their personal wealth to a guy, a deranged fool, who was also to have his way with them, men allowing their wives to be taken advantage of by this dude, allowing their children to be used by this fool, and to mother children by this dude. It was just like the wicked shit when you listen to this. And then you look at the damage that psychological damage that was left by this. belief into some other deranged ass fool is they try to carry on with their lives. So I think I was looking at one thing. It's this channel I have in LA where one of these dudes went on like a mass shooting at a school who was, I think, adopted child of Jim Jones or something. Happened in LA back in the 80s, where that guy's life just spiraled out of control. Multiple victims of that situation. And then you ain't gonna have the government that step in and give these guys the type of counseling that they need. The same thing in the Davis Koresh thing up there in Waco. And you see how whacked out that whole organization was. No different than down in San Diego, where you have the what's the crazy people? They had the black chick from out of Star Wars going to the Stargates, Heaven's Gate, or whatever this little religious whack job cult that they were in. These dudes listen to this dude about the arrival of aliens. They take some drink to take their own lives, thinking they'll be they'll arrive into whatever heaven is when it's an alien ship comes, as you know, the year 2000 comes about. It's just all this belief into the calendars of these other religious groups. The world is going to end, and then all this other that. Science doesn't prove any of that. The whack jobs and their beliefs and what they write into these books that ain't, and then they con people that this is what God told. God ain't told you none of that crap. God ain't speaking the language of you fools and none of this. People have been tripped out. You've not paid attention to your mental health. Some of you fools have gotten on drugs and have spiraled into all sorts of direction, along with other people with a lacking in self-belief who buy into this stuff. And a lot of what you find in this stuff is people who lack self-belief and have to uh, place their successes into other imaginary unforeseen things because they lack in themselves. They don't give themselves credit. And that was like what was crucial when with like with the Snoop Dogg what was that? An honor of Snoop Dogg when he got his star and where he was speaking about thanking himself. A lot of people don't do that. They don't thank themselves. They'll thank all these other people. And that just shows the level of doubt that people have within themselves, that they don't credit themselves for the successes they have created for themselves. It belongs to someone else. And that's just the same thing. Even on Christmas, I want to talk about that, like where people, this concept of Santa. I remember I had this for years ago with my kids, and I still got the video with my little daughter about Santa and all this stuff, where people pay homage to this make-believe shit, where you working your butts off to go out here, earn money, and then spend it with some damn business to fund their yearly yearly profits and of buying something to make your children and everybody else happy by placing price tags on love and shit into buying this stuff. But the credit has to go to some old make-believe fat food, and that being Santa. And like I say, Santa fell off the roof at my house 12 years ago. And 12 years ago is significant. That's how old my kids is. He fell off the roof 12 years ago. Now I've always told them that shit, even when they were kids, when they began to speak Santa and all that other stuff, ain't no such thing as Santa. It used to be a challenge of getting them to break out of that because it was a mother they had to deal with teaching them that retarded shit. And then as they got older, they have an understanding of no Santa. Like I always say, Santa does not exist. And I don't know how anybody will accept teaching and pushing that it's fun for the kids and all this ignorant other stuff. Now the kids got to break out of a lie. To me, I'll never rock with it. It's one of the most ignorant things to be taught to a kid, and the giving credit to someone else and have your kid sitting there waiting and in awe and of praise of a fake dude, non-existent dude named Santa who comes bearing gifts for children is the craziest shit ever. And you get no thank yous, no nothing. And it's a day where you wake up and the kids don't thank you for shit because Santa brought it. Hell to the gnaw. You gotta be a damn fool. People do that stupid ass elf on the shelf shit and think that, man, these I can just go on about the stupidity of people, man. I can just go on and on about the stupidity of people and where they just think these are just some normalized things, things to be funny about, it's cute, all this other dumb shit. Ain't nothing cute, ain't nothing funny about it. It's just teaching kids to be bigger and bigger dummies and how easy it is to influence them by imaginary shit that doesn't exist, to have them in fear of things that don't exist, to have them in positive review of things that don't exist. They can love Santa, fear the Grinch. Like, I mean, and the Grinch is really yo ass. The Grinch is the father. It's really who it is. And then Velocity Cuz says, are those MFers really trying to push for Martin Luther Kirk Day? Hell yeah, they are. Under this chump in the White House. The hell y'all don't believe, man. That's why I be saying people stupid, homie. And thinking that the presidency doesn't matter was the dumbest thing people used to ever talk on here. But that's when I know how dumb people were. And then Mark Summers says that's stupid. And he says you must not be doing enough. Says if you're worried about credit, says going to Santa and not you. No, not saying it about me, you big dummy. I'm pretty sure your mama had you believing that shit while your daddy got out there and slave, and your mother stay in the house and cheat with everybody who visited by there, dropping off packages. And I don't mean in boxes. And then Mark Sumner says it says good for kids says to have an imagination. Kids gonna always have an imagination, dummy. But teaching kids, especially teaching black kids, that some big chubby Mark Sumner's looking mother effer is bringing them the gifts. You sound dumb as hell, bro. And this is where that shit comes from. It comes from where you come from, where y'all teach imaginary shit. You wish upon a star, big dummy. But that's like the dumbest thing. And then it was funny, like even with this type of teaching, that's when I started thinking Santa was fake. The first time I ever seen a black Santa. Because I remember my sister taking us to the dang mall to go take Santa pictures. And I remember banking around the corner. It was like a movie. We come hitting the corner, just mob. I'm wanting to see Santa. And because I know I'd seen the Santa before, they had like those little winter wonderland things. You seen the little white Santa come banking around the corner. And the line was short. When they start busting out the black Santa, man, his line wasn't long. When I hit the corner and seen that black ass Santa, I ain't want to take no picture with that fool. I was like, hell no. Because then even when I used to start seeing the little Christmas movies where they had the little like midest little kids and they'll yank the Santa beer, I used to want to do that shit to see if the Santa had on a little fake beard. But when I seen that black Santa, I said, oh, hell no. I didn't even want to take a picture with him. And then and the Velocity Cuss says you doing a my thoughts review, says on OG Pyru Neckbone interview with Glad TV. I have no idea who the heck that dude is. And I'm tired of looking at interviews with gang members that just want to gain fame from their stories, and all their stories gonna be about how they shot some other motherfucker who look like them. And then they want to relive in their glory days and don't want to speak knowledge and condemn that and the case is never going to, give them wisdom. And that's the thing I kind of get away from with watching the gang type content, because there's no positive message at the end. Like you can go into like telling a story. Everybody has their story. And I believe people's stories should be told. But on the other side of that, when do you start telling the story that sends a positive message? And these people don't present none of that. They just speak about how many bodies they got on, because everybody respects the killers here in this nation, a nation that is sleep as hell. So I don't want to hear that fool story. It's a story of all these fools, and then they have stories that really haunt people. They're gonna talk about who they done smoke, serving dope. That's an everyday story. We hear that, but also when do we get into stories about speaking about government involvement? Because a lot of these dudes speak about the money you made, but hell, you made chump change compared to what the foreigners who were allowed to bring that in under elected white officials who allowed them to bring that and poison in your communities. They know how to find your communities, roll right over here from some land thousands of miles away, who have led them there, who have set up the networks. These people sit back and they watch this shit. Like, come on, homie. There is a bigger scheme into this whole matrix of the shit these dudes been caught up in, and and been the only people to face the punishment behind it. And it to ruin, to be kind of the poster childs of who have ruined the communities, and not knowing they were just pawns in the whole big ass scheme of a bigot's dream in a framework created by the damn bigot. So now I don't even know who OG Neckbone, the Pyru dude is, but I don't be want to watch that shit, especially if it's off of Vlad and them, because there's nothing concrete that comes from the interviews. It's just Vlad and them to marvel over the destruction that has occurred in inside of black households. They get a thrill out of that shit, of listening to the destruction inside of the black community. And then Mark Summers says, he says, oh yeah, it says, God forbid black kids says, oh yeah, God forbid black kids says believe in Santa, says going to cause them some real trouble in life. And I'm glad you brought up about the God thing, because in these white religions, they also teach white kids like you very negative things about black folks. The church is what spews it. I think a lot of the bigotry that we find inside of societies that comes from Britain, that comes up from all throughout Europe, is they go in and they invade nations and stuff, have all been taught through their rabbis, through their priests and ministers or whatever, all this racial crap. And they have hid behind this so-called word of what they speak as being God and lying on God's name, because none of that kind of crap comes from God. It comes from their wicked ass brains, aka their imaginations. So they imagine that they're allowed to, because they're chosen people, to have reign and control and dominance over people at the point of a gun. It ain't with none of this shit. It ain't with none of this. It ain't with none of that. It's that, the coward way. That they are the chosen people of God and are allowed to do that. And now it's done by the plane and the bomb. Like, Joe clown, you a clown, homie. Your mother done raised a clown. Their parents, and it comes to a bloodline of being raised by clowns. Along with the clowns that y'all go into these temples and pay tithes into. The same clowns that have taught y'all this ill shit. Same clowns that have told people about curses on people, and they are being chosen people. And being chosen by God allows them to take the lives of people, to enslave people. That's some of the most wickedest shit ever. And that's why I don't do none of that church stuff. Stay far away from. If I'm gonna go I'm gonna go listen to a black church, but only hear positivity out of. I may want to hear the singing. But outside of that and following, being led by people, absolutely never. And then Mark Summers says, I grew gang content since long ago. Says churches don't say anything bad about black people, laugh out loud. Yeah, sure. They don't say it now after all that shit been debunked, but they've said it for centuries. Them same churches that said all that ill shit be now trying to recruit black folks. But guess what? In their recruitment of black folks, they don't let black folks move up high into the ranks of in their church system. Mark Summers says, you think everything is some Klan church. Mark Summers, name your church. What's the name of the church you go to, Mark Summers? Let's pull up some history on it. Let's pull up some history on it, because I love killing you with facts, bro. I destroy you every time you get on. And there's a reason why you come over here constantly, is because you learn something. I break away that cognitive dissonance shit that you have going on based on your upbringing. You have to hold on to these beliefs that you've been raised with. But every time you go over here, I chip away at it, because you listen to it and you be like, damn, this fool Reggie right about this shit I've been taught. Let me see what else he's going to talk about. His title may says this, but I know he'll get into that. So name this church you went to, Mark Summers, and I guarantee he'd be afraid to even put his church in here. Because guess what he know? I'm going to look the goddamn church up, and I'm going to get some history on it, on the fly, live. So put it in there, Mark Summers. Let's name this church. And I already know what you're going to probably do. You're going to probably put some black church that you don't even go to. And then Mark Summers says, what I learned, says, was to treat others how you would like to be treated, says, and that's how I live my life. I'm glad you live that way. But do other people around you live that way, or have they? Is that the history of your family? I know y'all just newly arrived from Europe, but y'all been creating conflict and other little civil disobedience and division over your nation. Then y'all come here and you bring it here. And then Mark Summers says, bullshit conversations with Reggie the clown. But he keep listening to this clown shit that's always teaching him. And look, he writes a comment, but no church. Blasey Cuts even laughing at him. And then Mark Summers says, I mostly just laugh at the ignorance here. It says, I like the ignorant shit. Absolutely, but you don't watch the ignorant shit on the gang content channel. Sure you don't. You like hearing this truth that I'll be speaking. But let's get that church name in there. Don't give me a reason why you like coming over here for the laughs, because I can create laughs. I can create seriousness, thought-provoking shit. I can talk about pretty females, anti-sucker shit. But then ultimately, I'm going to get on some true intellectual shit. So let's go into this church's name. Just give us the church name. You ain't got to search address and all that other shit. but I'm gonna pull up the history of what you've been taught, and you're afraid to put in the comments because you know everything I'm speaking on is the actual factuals about your upbringing in this church. And it probably got some controversy. You probably don't want to put in there because we search it. It probably got some controversy about the priest or pastor, whatever it is, touching on little boys. And you was a little boy in the church. And you want to hide that you may have been a little boy touched on by a person preaching this so-called word of make believe that they done made up, riding into some word of their day. So let's get the name of this Mark Sumner's church that he want to hide, because we all know he been butt bandited by the damn pastor of this church, and he wants to hide away from that shit. Guarantee he don't put that shit in here. Man, always right with Reggie Owens exposing these old fake clowns, fake degenerates such as my brother Mark Sumner's. You know, I can talk like this and still call you a brother because you just don't know what you be talking about. You just a clown like a lot of people. You just got this clown shit in him. He says Church of Scientology and Newark division. Get out of here. Go into where you was raised, and if you probably was raised in that church, then you probably was raised on weird ish. Because I always hear weird ish that comes out of the Church of Scientology. So please put in the real name of your church. So I know that I can guarantee you that ain't your church. Just like I said, you will hide where you went to church at. So we all know that's not it, my brother. So let's get a real church up on here. So just waiting for Mark Summers to put that in here. So I ain't got to be live too long. I already cooked on my point and already exposing this dude. Damn, how Jackson Dark only throw for 33 damn yards? That's crazy. Let me see. I'm waiting for him to put this in here and looking at these stats from this game. Man, that got to be the lowest passing yardage in game history. Well, neither team threw a lot of passes. It must have been cold out there in New York. Let me see. It had to be freezing out there. All right, just waiting on you, Mark Summer. Wait for a real church, not this little fake Scientology crap you done made up. We all know it's made up. You fakers, I don't know what, $2, $3 bill. So let me see. This in Reese Rutherford. What's the temperature out there? Dang, that was a horrible game. So let me see. He gonna put his church in. He tried to fake like he went some Scientology. Picasso, they're saying, yo, says his mentor is Tom Cruise. Yeah, jump on the couch for little prostitutes. Yeah, I bet he did go to some Scientology church. But I want the original church that y'all was going to when y'all came over here from Europe. I want to know that church. All right. Hold on, let me see. Let me go into this fake church. Let's see a little history on it. It probably got a history of you being touched on by somebody in the church, mainly the pastor in there. Probably done fondled you, and you kept going back, asking your mother and them to leave you there, leave you alone with Reverend Touch a Butt. That's what you was in there. Yeah, mommy, leave me in here with Reverend Butt Touch. That motherfucking pastor name. Reverend Touch a Butt. So let me see. This fool say what to the church, which I know this ain't it. I want the church of what y'all was going to when y'all came, when y'all first landed here on good old America, New York for a lot of y'all. So let me see what's the name of that. He said in Newark. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna see if there's some old Catholic church near there, and I'm gonna go off of that. Let me see. So let me find out. I'm gonna find a little Catholic church near the area, and then that's how I pinpoint how I would pinpoint of what church you really went to. And let me see. So this blah 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 going to Scientology, and probably some weird stuff. This dude was touching all over Mark Sumner's and all that other shit, and he loved it. And it's another church, like more Ron L. Hubbard or L. Ron Hubbard. I think I heard Brandon to speak on this dude before. Like I said, I don't follow none of these type of crazy ass people because I know they're all weird, and I just stay away from following groups like that. But sometimes it's cool to learn the history of it, but I can care less about this kind of history. I'm not into religion and all that. Or the beliefs of what these people teach, man. Let me see. I just think life is about living, treating people right, being cool, motherfucker. being righteous with people, and that's the way I live. That's how I am. I don't be on whole ass shit. Keep whole shit far away from me. And let me see. It's just some weird shit. But let me see what Catholic churches this church is near. So it's Elizabethtown. I'm gonna look for churches. And let me see. This one is in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So that's how I'm gonna find them. Churches. Let me go. Churches in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Churches and church in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and see what little weird church this fool was going to. So I see a Liberty Baptist Church, and it looks about as snowflaked as it can get. Oh, let me see who the pastor is. Let me see. Then make sure they look like Mark Summers in them. See what they look like. They got Klarowski in the last name or something. I don't know. That's your church. So let me see. Meet the pastor. Oh, you know, this is a black church, so that's definitely not his church. Let's go to the next church. Oh no, let me go. Let me take what you call churches in Elizabeth, New Jersey. So True Jesus Christ, I see that one. Let me see if that's his church. I see a True Jesus, True. What I just said. Hold on, let me move these other tabs. Let me see, because I'm gonna narrow down True Jesus Church. I see that in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I see First Presbyterian Church, St. Luke Evangelical. That's probably where you went. St. Luke. I'm gonna look that one up. I see a comment from you. I said I can narrow it down to you, man. It's easy to figure people out like you, Mark Summers. You guys are basic mathematics. He says mentor is Tom Cruise for real. And he says how Sanders do against the Bills Mafia. Oh, I've seen Sanders in them didn't play too bad. Let's pull that up while we wait for Mark Summers, who I know ain't gonna answer that question about what church he went to because he know I always expose him. So we already know he about to hide what church he went to because he's in there being fondled on in the boys' choir by the person his parents trust to watch him. And his parents wasn't gonna do nothing when they found out. They forgave the pastor, just like the weirdos do, who follow them kind of movement. So I see he threw 2 INTs, not sure if these is trying to just get passes out there. They lost by 3 points. So it looks like they hung in the game. But look what the coach tried to do. The coach tried to put in some other quarterbacks. He didn't put in Dylan Gabriel, and Dylan got sacked. He tried to take Shador out and put these other fools in the game. Who was this fool? This fool right here, man. Corey Borjorka. Man, you might as well go into the ministry at Mark Summers' church, homeboy. Yeah, let's see. So Shador led the team in rushing. He had 4 for 49. So he was doing his things. The other Sanders ran for 42 yards. Yeah, he did his thing. This dude threw for 130. So it's probably a cold day as well. Shador wasn't too far off with the accuracy. 20 of 29. He had the 2 sacks and 2 INTs. I'd love to see what he did. I guarantee he held the ball too long, trying to look for plays to develop. But he kept his team in the game. They were there. They were winning the game by half. By what's that? Win the game at half by 10 points. They allowed them to make that 10-point cover right there. So let me see. Is that right? Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Down 10. See, down 4. Boom, boom. Oh, no. Buffalo was winning. My bad. Yeah, Buffalo was winning. So by the halftime. So they put up a touchdown, field goal. Probably needed another field goal than that. So probably them INTs killed them. Definitely the sacks. But he looked like he was doing his thing. Looked like he was pretty accurate. Probably some tough-ass interceptions like Chicago made. That damn Chicago Bears team is amazing, homeboy. That Chicago Bear team is amazing. I was shocked yesterday when I was doing the live, and I think CJ was talking about they had their backup quarterback was in there balling. And I looked at the score, was like, when I looked at the score, the thing showed 2 minutes and something left, and it was down by what I thought they wouldn't cover the spread on. I was like, oh, yeah, this game definitely over with. And I seen that Caleb Williams didn't have many yards. I look up, I forgot how I come across that Chicago won. I'm like looking like, wait, what the hell? Chicago won? Like that's impossible. I was like looking like, man, this must be something from last year. Maybe they played each other earlier the dang season. I was like, because that wasn't the game today. Ain't no way Chicago beat the Packers in that game. It was losing with like 2 minutes left. And then I seen the dang onside kick and this and that. It was like, wow, and that fool Caleb Williams be playing quarterback, man. I don't know why he do that fingernail stuff. Man, that dude's zesty as hell with that fingernail polish crap. But he played some football, and I'm glad to see him have the success he's having in the game. Glad to see him having success and doing it in Chicago. It's crazy, and they got a hellified defense. And the Mark Summers says you're not going to find anything, bro. Says this area of New Jersey is diverse, and says in Catholic Church doesn't preach hate. Of course they don't preach hate. They're too busy preaching on how to rub on little choir boys like you. And then Mark Summers says, churches here says help with the Underground Railroad, says freeing slaves. That's the history. Well, put the name of your church in here so I can see if your church is part of it. And then and the Picasso says, Jim Jones Church says is the one you looking for. No, Jim Jones Church is out of California before he took that shit down to that dang country. He's up there in the Bay Area. He had all them damn fools buying into whatever he believed. And even like when you look at the David Koresh thing in Waco, there was some weird crap going on with him in that church before he took over it. And then Mark Summers says Bellevue Dutch Reformed Church. Oh, that's the name of your church? Or is that some church you making up trying to act like y'all part of the Underground Railroad? Is that the name of it? Let me see. He probably just did a quick search up here making up some shit. And what are they, Amish? Let me see. You go to an Amish church. Let me see y'all history real quick. It looked wicked. It's a wicked looking church. Reformed Dutch Church of Second River. Let me see. Founded in 1697. It is named after the Second River, says, which is a tributary of the the Passaic River, built in 1725, blah, 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 where 62 revolutionary soldiers were buried here. Current church was built in 1883. They don't give history. They don't got no history because they probably been doing some wicked touching in there. Yeah, that church looks demonic. So it looks like where you got this weird ass belief that you come up with. So they ain't covering much of this church's history because they must have been doing little touchy shit with little kids like you up in there. You didn't go to that damn church. They showing this church historic on the historic registry list. And he says, that's some history for you. He says, Sanders had a bad game, bro. Says, look up the history of that church, Goofy. Says, Bellevue. And that ain't the church you go to. I want to know the church you go to. And like I said, you ain't going to put the church that you went to. And then light skin Cletus says, oh, wait, hold on. Now I got to look at something. Hold on. Now let's look at something. Oh, let me check something. But yeah, you definitely ain't going to put the church that you went to at all. You definitely ain't going to do that. Yeah, hold on. I want to check something. Boom. Yeah, I'll get in that comment in 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. All right, let me go back. All right, here we go. And then Lycine Cletus says it's mind blowing to see individuals like Mark Summers with sucker premise ideologies have the nerve to spew religion to people. And they do that all the time because it's been very effective throughout the course of them being able to go in there with missionary plots and then go over there and trick the people and fake them out and then work the people into submission. That's what Mark Summers come from. And they come over here trying to be polite, smile on their face, and just be devilish. Devilish is I don't know what. Like Keita says, as soon as I see a sucker premise approach me with religion, I immediately go on alert. Now, it was the one time when I was taking my son to the park and we were going into run and stuff. And these kids doing that little, what do Mormons do when they do, is that a pilgrimage form or whatever they do? They do a pilgrimage on 10 speeds. And so they riding around, they stop us because we up there stretching before we go running. And I told the dudes when he walked up to, I said, hey man, you can go on with that. I don't want to hear none of that stuff coming from what you talking about. It's like I don't want to hear none of that. And then he looking, it's like, I said, man, you already know. I said, y'all Mormon, right? So I said, what you approaching me for? Like, I don't want to learn nothing from your church or hear nothing from it. We ain't joining. My son was looking at like, why did you have to talk to them like that? And I had to tell my son the history of this damn church and what they start spewing about this little negative crap, which is a common thing amongst religious groups that are brought into America, European-based religion. And what they spew. They spew that shit all throughout Africa. Now it's America and Trump and them acting concerned. Trump and them all of a sudden spewing out all this Christian shit. The same Christians who pushed and drove slavery inside of America. And the only thing that brought an end to slavery was the same slaves, along with whites, battling against these old wicked ass people. And the bullet put an end to that. It took violence, not the word of their so called gods, that brought an end to slavery, American slavery. A bullet put an end to that shit. Their religion ain't never stopped slavery across none of these nations. There's always been some economic shit. And then if they had it their way, which we never know, if they can go back and return to trying to impose a slave system again. I mean, America's still operates in the semi-slave system and shit. It's where you got these class systems that go on here. And then Lyson Clea says Nimrod came to West Africa, says with a book and left with the resources. Man, and then people gonna come in here and drop these religious points too. Because they know the wickedness behind that shit. That's why I always say to these fools, who is your God? Like, do you actually believe in a God? Like, and to me, it's like, no, I don't want to hear none of that crap. And then and I don't want to knock people because it's people that I know that are religious. But like I say, don't bring that to me. Only time I go to church is I watch somebody performing in it. But outside of that, the word and all that, no, hell no. It don't take words to know. It takes a spiritual a spiritual connection, and that connection should be one of positivity, and it also one that doesn't allow you to stay meek because it's a time where you have to make examples out of wickedness, and you have to know when to turn that shit off too. It ain't just one that leaves you vulnerable just because you have the spiritual connection. Everything's about positivity and love. Doesn't mean to make an example or have to eliminate somebody is out of hate. And then and WMS says Mark Summers says is an MF and agent. Says I ain't fooled. Yeah, I ain't fooled by that shit. You know, these fools taught that shit in these communities they come from. He says Bellevue says is a part of the Underground Railroad route. Says, and you wasn't part of that Underground Railroad shit. I don't know how you even highlighting the Underground Railroad. Because even along the Underground Railroad were whites that lived along that path that were there to try to turn in blacks. So don't act because you lived along that route. You weren't even there. You were in Europe. You trying to act like, oh, I live in the community where the Underground Railroad. Yeah, the Underground Railroad was full of damn slavery supporting whites who, if they found out about that shit, would have turned those black folks in. So don't act like you're part of that. It's a small network of white folks who were part of that. No different than the people over in Austria, wherever the little Anne Frank story is. That in Poland, wherever that story comes from, who hid away those Jewish families. But you best believe there's a bunch of people around there who are quick to turn them in. You be sitting there act like you part of the Underground Railroad. It's a kind of little slick shit they play. And that shit work on other black folks. They heard Mark Summers say that shit. They don't even really get the full scope of the historic, the history behind that. Says, no, I don't think Anne Frank was in Germany. And that's a shame for your white ass. Let's say that. I think Anne Frank was in like Poland or something. Let me see. Where were they at? And she was German born, boom, boom, boom. The German occupation of the Netherlands. Yeah, see, yo, white ass don't know what you're talking about. She was born in Germany. Her family was, where did they get arrested at? It says following the arrest, says Frank was transported to camp. Boom, boom, boom. They were in Amsterdam. The family moved to Amsterdam, retard. See, I knew that, and I ain't even a German. They moved into Amsterdam. So this white dude don't know shit, and white and the other whites will listen to a dummy like Mark Summers. These people from over there. I'm a black dude knew that they wasn't arresting no goddamn uh was arrested in no goddamn Germany. You big dummy. His fool listening to Mark Summers. His fool retarded. His knowledge on shit is dead. And then so Mark Summers says, oh yeah, he tried to bring up the shit about the says they weren't in Amsterdam, shaking my head. He says, I'm looking at it. They were arrested in Amsterdam, dummy. Family left after the after the shit start to be, the tension start to grow inside of Germany, dummy. And then Mark Summers says Bellevue is part of the underground railroad route. Says where runaway slaves were transported. He tried to tell me some history. Says from the south through New Jersey. Says on their way to New York. This white dude is something else, bro. And that's what these Turning Point USA dummies be coming up with. He says the route ran through Newark, says that the Bellevue, says, and over the Bellevue Passaic River Bridge, says that into the Jersey City, which you wasn't part of none of that, fool. You're a new arrival. You were never here when slavery was going on. You got here in like 1950 or something. So you can debunk that. And then going back to the whites that lived there during that time, there were many of the whites who would have clearly turned in a black person. Why did they have to hide? Because obviously Bellevue wasn't a safe place for them, right? And he says Bellevue Dutch Reformed Church says was a daytime hiding spot since before making the nighttime crossing over the bridge. And then Picasso says Mark went to the Reverend O.G. Mac. Mark went to Reverend O.G. Mac Jr. Says Northern Missionary Amish Church. Says I'm playing. Now he did grow up in an Amish church. He came over here when the Amish got here. Fool know he be in there making. What do Amish be known for making? They make some kind of like pie or something. What do Amish be making? They be making something. I seen on one of the little Amish shows. Them fools, man, get them the hell up out of here. They can't get with being an American assimilation, then they got to go. Yeah, get you a car, start riding in the little horse wagons. Get the hell up out of here. Let, have your women put on better clothes. Otherwise, take y'all selves back home. Velocity, because if I ran it, ICE will be sending them back until they assimilate. And then Velocity Cuss says a pilgrimage, says on a 10 speed, what the fuck? Yeah, that's what they be doing. That's what I think what they call that, a pilgrimage or whatever they be doing when the Mormon kids go out on the bikes and they wear the little white shirts and black slacks. They drive around in the car to go park the car and then ride their bikes. That shit is the craziest shit ever. Now, I always see them in Boy, I'll quit the first day of that shit. And then Mark Summers said, I'll steal the bike. That's what I'll do. I take the bike. Mark Summers says you watch too many movies, says showing some southern evangelicals, says in Klan churches. Bro, I'm an American, bro. This whole new fashion of America, bringing all you folks over from the lands you come from, ain't America. You can try to rewrite that shit, but that ain't America, homie. And then WMS 702 says Mark Summers says fought Reggie censoring his show. Says sucker motherfucker. It says Mark Summers fought. Says Reggie censoring his show. I'm lost on censoring the show. And then Lycan Cletus says in the 1500s says the Catholic Church justifies slavery through religion. All these religions, all these European-based religions has always justified slavery and their position of being chosen people and God's ordained people and everybody else is beneath them and they're allowed to do whatever. Obey your master. For God says that. And then in the due time in the building, salute to the relatives, salute to CJ in the building. Picasso says, where did the pilgrims go? Shit, they follow where Mark Summers and them come 100 years after him. And then New Jersey, due time says, Cuzzo CJ. And then Mark Summers says, Anne Frank says was in Germany, says you don't know any history. He says trying to educate you. Man, sure, you was wrong on that. And then Dusan says, see Kawhi says was on LeBron ass last night. Yeah, I see Luca faked the injury or something, huh? He shot all them shots that was missing. He had his team getting blown out, blowing shots and all that, then fake a leg contusion conveniently. And they're boycotting, they're looking on. And she says Schindler's List was Poland. Says you only know LA gang history. Says, and it says you did your homework. There's a boycott saying, I'm gonna put on the screen to where Anne Franklin was arrested for this damn European fool who probably was a Nazi. Says they weren't in Amsterdam. Shaking my head. Says the Nazis killed it. Look, Mark Summers is a retarded ass dude. That's why you don't follow people like this dude. Then pull up this Anne Frank thing, and we'll see where she was. She was born in Frankfurt, Germany. Says Frank and her family moved to Amsterdam after Adolf and the Nazi Party gained control of Germany. Says by May 1940, says the family was trapped in Amsterdam due to German occupation. You big dummy. I don't know what else you need this. What else you need to hear? So therefore, you have failed in your own white history. You probably need to go back to white history courses at your church and learn your own damn history. Lysine Clear says damn, Mark Summers says, what you trying to kick? Some knowledge? Says, get the F up out of here. But he kicking fake knowledge, always wrong with Mark Sumner's knowledge. And Mark Summers says I didn't have to be says I have to be part of that. And the boycott says my dream 2028 ticket is Chappelle and Snowden. Says man of integrity. Yeah, you watched that damn comedy show, man. That was some genius. I like that comedy show from Chappelle. And he was calling out a lot and speaking on a lot. And I'm glad that Netflix allowed it. And the boycott says I think you have Mormons confused with Jehovah Witnesses. Jehovah Witnesses no different either. I remember I worked with a black dude who was a Jehovah Witness. Man, oh my God. That dude used to be so weak and allow people to treat him any old way. I used to almost lose my job having to defend this dude against, he was an older dude. He was just always one of these turn the other cheek type motherfuckers. And I'd be like, man, that fool name was Rob. That's the fool name. An older cat, man. And he used to let this little Haitian fool we had who was like a supervisor talk any old way to him because he knew the dude wasn't going to do anything because that Jehovah Witness shit had him all meek the fuck out. He just let people treat him any old way. And like I said, I used to almost lose my job over defending him. I used to check this little Haitian motherfucking supervisor I had. He one of them dudes, you couldn't even tell he was Haitian. I would have thought he's from like India or some shit. He probably one of them old Indian imports that was brought over there. Their family had been there for a long time. They probably intermixed with a Haitian or something, so he probably had mixed blood. And all he talked about is Haiti and Haiti. Like, man, go take your ass back over there. But he'd be trying to treat people like shit. He wouldn't do me like that because I didn't play that shit. Like I say, I'll lose my job breaking your motherfucking jaw. And I said, tell him, he's always talking about his son. You bring your sons up here too. Like, I don't play that shit. So he used to avoid me. This is my supervisor too, but he was a hoe. He one of these people that will abuse their damn position and so-called power. Cause we doing loss prevention over at the little Ralph Food for Less warehouse in Compton. Man, fools. You talking about a bunch of chumps I work with? That was the one job I worked with. The supervisors were chumps on me. And that's why all of them, they end up, when Kroger's came in, they ended up getting rid of all them fools positions because they was clowns. And then Mark Summers says Reggie has a lot confused about religion and other things. Now I got everything on point with religion, and I ain't a person that sits there and wastes my time studying religion and being guided by it because I get guided in the right way, and come from some of the most effed up goddamn conditions in any environment inside of America, and have always led a righteous path. Ain't never been on the whole shit. I didn't know people who go to church that be part of the whole shit. Like, fuck up out of here, homie. I ain't swayed by dumb shit. And if Lexica says they call a Mormon missionary, it says not pilgrimage, says on BMX bike, shaking my head. Well, shit, y'all fill it in. Y'all know more about it than me. I'm gonna call it pilgrimage on BMX, 10 speeders. And then Mark Summers says right there, says died, and oh my God. Let me go back to how dumb Mark Summers is. Let me go back into how retarded. I think, Mark Summers, you got to be a special ed student. So it showed she died in Bergen-Belsen, Germany. What is Bergen-Belsen, Germany? It is a concentration camp, you big dummy. This family was put onto trains after they were captured. They were captured in Amsterdam, put on trains, and transported So let me see. Let me show you. It says, following arrest, the Franks were transported to concentration camps. Dummy. Says, and Frank, her sister Margaret, says were transferred from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen. So that's your history lesson there, bozo. Man, this fool don't know a bit about nothing, and therefore that's why you never listen to any information put out by this fool Mark Summers. Now, Mark Summers, I asked you to do one thing, is to put your church into the chat so we can look it up, because I guarantee your church got a history of them rubbing on you, and that's why you seem a little bit affected, like something off with you. Because the last time you jumped on here, I was like, man, this dude sound like one of the most touched in the church little boys. Where the pastor, you know how the pastor be acting like they praying on dudes. Why y'all pastors always touchy-feely and shit? They usually they start rubbing on y'all heads and then go all the way down your asses in front of your parents. Then they say, tell your mother, I would like for your kid to join join the after service program. Your motherfucking mama leave you there. What a big dumb broad. And then Mark Summers says right there at the bottom. Look, he says right there. It says that this fool don't know nothing about his own history, and I got to teach his little dingy looking uneducated selves a little history about his own people. And the WMA says Mark Summers suspect says maybe a Ziodos. Maybe he can't be Ziodos if he getting all this information wrong on shit that he should be knowing about. And I gotta prove him wrong. I make people when you ain't truly educated on shit, I'm gonna make you look dumb, bro. And I have no problem making you look dumb just to give you the correct answer. Or people make me look dumb. I don't mind that as long as I'm corrected with the right answers. I say this always right shit because I do be always right with you motherfuckers who uneducated spewing out shit. And the same shit, Dave Chappelle point out the shit that I always say. And he spoke about conspiracy theory ass people. But to speak about always being right because so many people don't know shit. They blurt out shit like they know and like they for certain with shit. They just guessing. You got this Doug and Kruger effect that a lot of you guys have. Think you experts and only read one line of some shit, think you know everything and be wrong as hell. Fool got no knowledge on nothing. But the one thing I always want people is to have the right answers, the proper shit, regardless of how it make you feel. And the same thing with me. If I blur out some shit, that's some old half knowledge based shit that I got wrong, I want somebody to correct me with the right answers. And that's why I don't mind when I pull up. A lot of people feel embarrassed, like I'm trying to shame them when we pull up to get the right answers on shit. Think everything should be right. Otherwise, you off course. The same thing when they send shit into space. If one mathematical number is off, it throws everything off his fucking course. Everything's mixed up. So we need to be accurate. And I got to make Mark Summers accurate. He's just dumb. I know he's dumb, but I'm going to help educate him. And then Mark Summers says, Jehovah's Witnesses are whack. Says are whack. Said that's a cult, not a religion. Man, I don't know what they are. I just see that dude I used to work with, man, and be listen to how he just let people talk to him. And he be always saying, well, Jehovah got him or this and that shit. It's like, man, where you getting that shit from, man? Like, come on, bro. He was always defending him because he's an older dude. Like I said, it was people. This fool was like in his 60s or something when we was working there, and they just let them talk to him any old way because then he talked with like a list and all that other shit, and they try to treat him like he was slow. Like I say, man, I would have broke that damn supervisor jaw because he's a little hoe ass dude. Like, you come bring your foreign ass up over here, get in this position, acting like you go in this role, and then it's a fool who, when nobody's around, end up abusing what his position was. That's a lot of fools is doing up there, abusing their position at that damn job. And they're just doing the most way. I stay butting heads with them fools. And that's how they end up firing me. They end up firing my ass. But I was in there having a ball too. When they called me in there the day they was about to fire me, they called me on over because I used to bring music up there. I'd be making a CD. That's why I used to work with the old player caddy. We'd be listening to oldies and shit. And the song come on, Old Man Hooks, and be like, oh, damn, this remind me of, he bring up an old chick he was messing with. Oh, she was sitting there, he talking about some club, yeah, she was in the this color dress and she was this and that. And I brought her in there. He used to drive an old Lincoln. I used to enjoy working with this old ass player. Besides, they had the music. And I let these fools play my music. It was a new supervisor they brought in. But his that fool, he tried to report I had music. But when they brought me in to about they suspended me before they fired me, when they brought me in on that shit, and that led to when that cop did that shit when I was applying for the sheriffs, he tried to use that as a reason why they was going to disqualify me from the hiring process. With the sheriffs was over me having that firing on my record. But he Ben told him when he asked if I'm ready to continue on with the process, I let him know the job terminated me, but I'm still full time in school. Oh no, that's fine. Well, he bring all this other shit and pull up the file, seeing one of my homeboys is in the gang file, my brother and all this other shit, and then try to use this other shit to make it like, oh, the firing you disqualified. Like, man, get up fired. Like I said, I was gonna file an ACLU report on that shit, but I was just like, fuck, because I didn't care about the working with the LA sheriffs anyway. But back to this, when they pulled me in there, with how I get fired, they pulled me in about music. And I was like, man, I wasn't even at that damn location where they playing music. They using my damn radio playing music. But when they called me in, I thought they was gonna call me in. They caught me on camera because I used to be smashing this chick I used to work with inside the little work booth, man. I was like when it wasn't that, I was like, oh, well, forget it. All right, y'all fired me. I'm gonna leave it at that. Like, long as y'all catch me on camera. Oh man. I was in there, man. I was in there like, woo! I was starting to sweat bullets when they about to say they got me. That fool talking about some music with profanity and all that shit. Like, man, that wasn't in my music. But I said, man, that's what y'all want to rock with. That's what y'all rock with. But I'm out of here. But I thought they would have caught me. And then WMS 702 says, LA Brethren says, rocks with a food for less. Says for sure. Yeah, I used to work at they little warehouse in Compton off the 91. And then I didn't eat food from Food for Less stuff. I didn't, the hell no. I was working, I didn't get that Food for Less shit. I'll go to Rouse, which didn't make no sense to me. Like, how can food comes from the same corporation but have different qualities of food? I never got that. You go on a Food for Less and that food be looking like they repackaged old food. Food for Less, and that's why Food for Less ain't around no more. Man, they standards and quality used to make no sense to me. But then you go riding the routes and the food is of much higher standard. But routes, you find a lot of routes in areas where I guess the economics is different. And the WMS says I remember when we had that shit on Decatur and Flamingo. Decatur Flamingo. Oh wait, because that mess closed down too, huh? Decatur Flamingo over there where the is that where that park at? That's that but is that the Decatur Flamingo area or that's further down though? Because the other one is Smith's. That's on Tropicana. Yeah, that's over there where the gym is. I used to go to that gym right there. And then Mark Summers says exactly says no, there was nothing like that at my church. Like he trying to deny what the priest is in there doing to him and shit. Priest is in there rubbing you with oils. That priest is in there having freak offs with you and a bunch of other kids. And then Mark Summers, y'all priests just says, and our Father, take that, take that. He have y'all say that. Your Father, I'm gonna take that, take that. That's what Mark Summers being there on his knees reading this Bible the damn priest wrote. And then Mark Summers says I wasn't heavy in the church. Says I went to CCD. Says that's it. He wasn't heavy in the church. Yeah, after that, I bet you wasn't. After what they did to you. And then Mark Summers says, all I care about is the truth. Yeah, you're going to get the truth over here. Nothing but the truth. So help you with a true God, not the God you've been raised with. And then CJ said, Jehovah's Witnesses are definitely a cult. Says, my grandma was one. Damn, for real? Man. Yeah, I didn't like the Jehovah's Witnesses, especially the dude who, like I said, the dude I work with who was Jehovah's Witness, man. He used to be so weak, man. Weak, man. I can't stand no goddamn bullies or people that just want to like bully people and target people and talk to people and treat any people, especially if you at work and you got a position and shit. That's why when I at work, that's why I don't be going to like certain things because a lot of people I work with don't be knowing I'll blow up on you. Like, I keep things joking, this and that, but when it be homemade shit from people at work, sometimes I just look at people or they hear me say certain shit. People know I ain't playing. But back in the days where I didn't mind, man, that's what I used to be like. As I got older, I used to think I'd never have a job to where I wouldn't get fired. I think every job I had, I didn't got fired. Every single one of them. This one currently is the longest serving job in Enterprise. I didn't get fired, but I left Enterprise and left a mark on that mug. Everything else, every other job I had, fired. Fired, 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 fired. Why? Because of punk ass people. Who I let them know either I'm gonna bank you, or we gonna have a, or we gonna really have an incident on this floor. You talk shit right here, I'm gonna turn into some shit. Because the first thing I tell people when they get to talking that hot shit, I be like, man, we can go right outside in the back of this building, or I'm a bank you right here. And then someone get to talking that hot shit to create a scene for somebody to break it up. That's all they do that shit for. Like, but that, I mean, I see the way they was treating that dude, man, was just foul. He allowed that shit. And I was like, man, I couldn't imagine if they was just on some, this is the 1940s and they, oh man, he would allow that shit. WMS 702 says I remember when when I don't know how you put the says I remember when then the Nevada gaming board since gaming control board says tried to press me on charges that I ain't even been convicted of. Says all those authorities says are bullshit. Says I work all of them mofos. And then Big Dog Willie in the building, salute, bro. Says salute. And then Lyson Cletus in there rolling, Velocity Cuts in there rolling. I don't know what I said. I said something probably to Mark Summers twisted ass. And then Lyson Cletus says Skandusky style. Yeah, that's who his Reverend was. His Reverend was the honorable, the honorable squiggly fingers Sandusky. That's what they call him. Oh, squiggly fingers. Fucking rubbing all over fucking Mark Summers' little advantage, taking advantage ass. And Mark Summers says, I don't joke about child abuse. Well, you shouldn't go to the church neither. And therefore, you won't, and that's the reason why you won't pull up the damn name of the church you went to. If fool gonna sit here and lie, talking about he was at some underground railroad church. No, damn well you part of that damn Catholic church scandal shit. WMS 702 says, yep, says Food for Less, says they closed it down. Says I think it might be Smith's now. So no, it was always Smith's, because Smith's is the other high quality brand of that smooth Food for Less brand. Now Kroger's on that. Cause when I was leaving, Kroger's end up just buying that Rouse and Food for Less. Says, but the homie from 70th Street says swore by that shit. Because when I was there is because those stores in LA, like the Rouse and all them, they never recovered from them strikes they had. Because what year was the strikes? They had a crazy strike. Even after I got out the army, that same warehouse where I was years later end up working at. When I got out, that's when for Deuce and CJ. When I first got out the army, the first place I went to get a job was they was on strike. This warehouse was on strike. This ain't when they had the major grocery store strike, but when they was on strike at this warehouse, the unions had strike. This is the first time I ever heard the use of the word scabs. I never outside of the grocery store one, I never heard of the word scab until we went to that warehouse and they were hiring on the spot almost. They were hiring like not on the spot because you had to do the drug test and all that. They were doing like quick hirings. They were trying to hire, and they were starting out at like, and this is in 2002. They were starting out at like $20 something to go work in a warehouse, and the people on the picket line, you scabs, this all these people applying for jobs. So I go with Charlo and Farrell. Me, Charlo, and Farrell go up there. And these fools give it mine. When we going up there, these fools getting blown. They in there, you know how they do, smoking early in the damn morning. On the way to go apply for the job because they like the word had been put out there. They hiring on the spot. Like anybody want to work, they hiring because the workers walked off the job and shit. And so now food ain't getting transported. I think even did the truckers go on strike? I think even the truckers went on strike because I think they're all part of the same union. And so we in there, they in there, you scabs, this and that. Charlo and don't get the job because they failed that damn weed test. I get a call back to come down there to sign and shit. And this around the same time. I remember them taking me down there and I had applied for TSA because TSA was the the big talk of the town. Like when people were talking about the federal government hiring, I turned down that job because TSA offered me a job up there, and it was the biggest mistake I made going with that TSA shit. End up getting fired. Like I said, I got fired from almost every job I ever worked, except when I had kids. When I had kids, I stopped getting fired from jobs. Like I stopped needing to go off on people like that and start being more diplomatic about the way I check shit with people. And then but yeah, always that was always funny to me. But like being in there, you'll see like everything housed in the same warehouse. Like how is Food for Less when you go in their stores, the quality of their stuff look like this, the quality of Ralph's stuff look like this, the trucks that bring the shit to the stores, the food is put on the same damn trucks. Like how is that? How is that? And you find Food for Lessons that are more in lower income communities and shit. And then what was that in the news? It was something that Ralph's in them, that same warehouse in them got fined like big time by California over something they were doing with chickens. They were I don't know if they were airing up the chickens or they were filling them with water. They were doing something that the chickens weren't actually the actual weight. They'll charge you because for chickens they charge you based on the weight. These fools got caught doing something that created artificial weight in those chickens. They were injecting those chickens to make them look plumper and bigger and then adding weight. And it wasn't the actual weight of what that chicken should be and ripping people off. And then it'd be crazy when they find these companies, that money don't go back to the people. People aren't getting the check of these big time settlements. Same thing with Wells Fargo and all them. I don't know what they do with that money. And then, but so that was some BS with them companies and seeing that. And then but it was that big strike that ended up why Kroger's came in because when I was leaving them the California grocery chains, then wait, what year was that? Hold on, let me see the LA grocery store strikes because the strikes lasted. Hold on, them strikes lasted for a long time. A lot of stores went out of business over that. The LA grocery store strikes. I think what was that like 90? Was that like 98 or was that in the two? No, I think I still was in high school. LA grocery store strikes. What year was that? That had to be no the 90s. In the 90s. That mug lasted for months. Cause them people end up having to go on like them people had to go on like unemployment or the union. They was getting their union checks, which wasn't enough. These people was losing. What is this? Is this LA Times? Ah, crap. So it won't let me pull this article up. Hold on. Let me see the year. I just want to find the year in which these strikes took place. So that article won't let me pull it up. It was because I want to see how long it lasted. That's the other thing I'm looking for. Or was it '03? It said 70,000 grocery store workers. It might be '03 when that happened. But I'm trying to think it was in '03. Maybe it was '03 when they had that strike. I was thinking I was in high school. So it might have been '03. But let me see if it's one in the 90s. 100,000 workers in California. Let me see. Says 70,000 workers, the strikes affected the three grocery chains, Albertson, Vons, Ralph's. So so it's saying 2003. I was thinking it was earlier than that. So this is in October 2003. But that strike, I'm trying to see how long that strike lasted for months. That strike lasted for a lot of months. And it brought them grocery stores down to their knees. I think they start merging. Some of them don't exist no more. It was all type of shit that happened from that strike. Like I said, I seen some strikes. Even when our LA teachers went on strike back when I was a kid, that messed up a lot with LA Unified. That mess really messed up a lot within the LA Unified. They really the inner city kids of South Central and all that really got impacted by that. That school district really tried to do a number on the students by punishing those teachers for even going on that strike. And I think that was during the Reagan years because Reagan tried to crush unions. He did that shit with the air traffic control unions. He ended up crushing. And it's just like everything with Reagan, and Trump is no different than that whole ass punk Reagan, where they did a lot to destroy anybody putting up a fight for workers' rights. They put an end to it. They crushed air traffic. Reagan crushed air traffic controllers, and I think any other type of unions. And it almost forced a lot of people being afraid to speak out on something. Because I think if you strike over something how you break up unions, that was a lot of things going on during that time period in the 80s and shit, was union busting and shit. It's unions fight for people's wages and shit. These fools, these old wealthy minded fools who work for Wall Street corporations, do anything to break away, trying to pay workers, you know, equitable wages and shit. You know, getting your piece of what the company's pulling in versus some old clown on Wall Street sitting there pushing buttons and trading the stock and shit. And then, and this is crazy how we reward the laziest fucking people in society who gain wealth doing lazy shit, sitting there trading bitcoins and pushing the button, trading the stock, not doing shit. And then they sit there at conferences bragging about the lazy ass shit. They're passing over, passing over the shit to their degenerate, lazy ass children and shit. And Marcellus says, "Don't says doesn't surprise me at all." Laugh out loud. Oh, that you were wrong. Picasso says bullies are literally predators. Facts. And then Lyskin Clea says you weren't pressing nobody at work. Reggie says that buff dude says put them paws on you at TSA. Says on the set, man, you would never find anybody at TSA that said that big dude put hands on me. They be like, oh shit, that was you that did that shit to that fool. Because I'll be wanting to say that fool name, but I don't want to embarrass him like that. You know how the internet do that shit. But I do be wondering what happened to that dude. Because I be thinking, because the dude was like extra out on some old gang banging ass shit working at TSA. And I'll be wondering, like, damn, is that fool dead or some shit? Is that fool dead? Like, what happened to that fool? But it'd be nobody who worked at there and say that fool didn't even touch me. Most he did is shove me to the wall and shit. But once we start squaring up and throwing punches, that fool didn't land a goddamn thing on me. And then he was big like how Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua was. I'm like Jake Paul look inside. That fool looked like Anthony Joshua and shit. Broke his shit. And then WMS 702 says, and that's back when I used to work out. I mean, I was on point. And he says McCarran sent me down to the DA's office, says to get security clearance just to work post security at Hudson News. Says man, that was the hustle. Where's I never heard of the Hudson News. They still exist, or I guarantee Review Journal probably brought them up. And the Velocity Cut says, take care of y'all chicken. Says, take care of y'all mental. Yeah, that was man. I remember they fined the hell out of Kroger's over that shit. I think Kroger's had them, but I know it's Ralph Food for Less got fined over that shit. And the Picasso says, are you saying that a company was selling chickens with prosthetic limbs says to make them heavier? Now these fools. Oh, let me pull that up. Let me pull that story up. I think it was Rouse fined for chicken. Let me see if they pull that up. Boom, boom, boom. Like slaughterhouse fine 3.8. Nope, that ain't it. So let me see. Rouse face pen fee and overcharging case. This is it right here. Bam. Says Rob. That was back in 2010. Hold on, let me make sure I can watch it because from LA Times, they always putting up you need to be a subscriber to read their damn content. So a lot of old historical news gets hidden. So Ralph faces penalties and overcharging case. Says sentencing for the supermarket giant Ralph's Groceries says was set for next Wednesday on 62 criminal counts of overcharging customers, false advertising, and false labeling at more than a dozen stores in LA County, probably all Black area stores. The company, which pleaded no contest to the charges in LA County Superior Court on Monday, faces up to $43,000. Man, get the hell out of here. Says when charged in May, Ralph and his parents' company, Cincinnati-based Kroger's, face fines and penalties of up to $256,000 each. As a result of the plea agreement, says the charges against Kroger's were dropped. Boy, these courts ain't shit. Says the violations were found last year during undercover inspections of 14 stores by LA County Department of Weight and Measures. So it's good they got a department like that, but it's pointless when you get courts that cut deals for goddamn corporations based on whoever their damn lawyers representing them are. Says inspectors made test purchases and found that the stores overcharged on prepackaged and weighed products such as fried chicken, bulk coffee, salads, and fish. Says the chain was fined for similar violations in 2008, 2009. At a Rouse in Granada Hills, inspectors found that fried chicken labeled as having a weight of 30 ounces actually weighed 3.5% less. Says at another location on Wilshire Boulevard, so these are rich areas too. Says inspectors found that the store did not deduct packaging weight when ringing up customers who purchased self-serve salad, shorten them at least 5%. So they're in here working these foods. And then since in 2008, Ross paid $6,500 in fines after inspectors found. So it's an I wouldn't stop. If I see why Rouse continue to do this shit. They facing these kind of low ass fines, then why stop that? You know, it's better to just continue on with it until you get caught. If the courts ain't gonna do nothing but give you a slap on the wrist and you a damn company pulling $1 billion annually, like the hell with them fines. And then Picasso says, oh, yeah, I read that one. But folks, that's all I got on this one, man. If you haven't checked out that Dave Chappelle shit, man, that shit is some classical shit. His delivery, his style, and everything to his way of doing comedy, man, was on point because he touches on the current climate of things. He definitely really, really does a great job at touching on the current climate of things politically, socially, all of that. And much respect to Dave Chappelle for doing these things and highlighting these things, highlighting these agendas put out here by people. And the fact of how he closed that mess out yesterday was legendary. Because once again, this is the United States. This ain't anything on the other side of the Atlantic. This ain't nothing on over in the Middle East. You ain't listen to other people who have certain things to say about why would you do comedy with these people and they beheaded this person, but say nothing about this nation they crying about who is dropping bombs on people. And WMS says Hudson switched to Duffrey, says a Swiss company, says whoever it was says they make a mofo to get up in the into the union. Says they managers try to kill everybody, says before the 60-day probationary period says expired, says F them motherfucker. Yeah, that's what companies, man, America got along. America, the people have to wake up. The American people have to wake up. It's always dealt with the ignorance of the American people who stay who interfere in their own best of interest. And that's what these fools did to break up unions. This is the reason why you have so much of this outsourcing of American jobs, that now these fools who fake to get your votes, fake like they're going to bring all this American work back, knowing damn well they're not going to do any of that once they step in office. Because that shit was done decades ago. And where older people sat there quietly and allowed their jobs to go overseas. And only for the ignorant American what do you call these? I hate using that word entrepreneur and shit, but the heads of these big corporations that just ship your manufacturing jobs somewhere else, only to bring products back for you at inflated prices to cover the cost of tariffs, all these other little taxes, and then they just exploded on price when they ain't paid shit to manufacture that shit. And it just makes no sense to want to buy this kind of shit and then give your credit for when you buying shit, especially in Christmas, to some old big fat fool with a great beer. Like, it's crazy to me. But it's just all in an effort to break apart unions, to not pay people their earned and shared wages for what they have done for driving in revenue for a damn company. You get overlooked. And then in this current state where we see this country going and where they want to automate everything. Here they go bringing automation. I was watching this video the other day by the guy who does the what's the name, Peter something. He does these uh little tours. He does great content. It's tours of other cities across America. He just covered across America, meet locals, and ask them things. But he was at a pit. Let me see if I find a channel. Let me see if it's in my little things because I watched it. He was over somewhere in Arizona at a copper mine, and he was interviewing the people. But while at this mine, he was asking, "Is the mine automated? Are those automated machinery? Are those trucks automated and all this other stuff?" He was asking the people in that town. It was like, no, not yet. None of the dump trucks and the other little earth movers are automated. They're operated by people. But when he's interviewing the other people as well, there aren't many people born in America. You find a lot of foreigners, people from Brazil, people from all these other countries. Even a black dude on there working at a gym in this town. This, as a matter of fact, the town was the mining company owned the whole town. So if you had housing there, you lived in housing that was owned by the mining corporation. So it's probably like one of only a handful of towns that are still owned by the companies that employ all the people. And so he was asking all this automation. So now the new thing is they talk about bringing this little shit that fake ass Wall Street connected politicians talk. And some of you dummies who love Trump buy into this stupid shit because you retarded. Is we're bringing the jobs back and blah blah blah. We're going to start manufacturing, but as this fool pushes this AI shit and this expansion of automating everything, the robots will do everything, and all the money flows right into their accounts. No person receives this, and then they have where these fools inflating the cost to live and buy and purchase a damn home. But talking about bringing jobs back here while having machines and computer systems to operate everything is crazy. And only foolish people buy into that shit. And because the history don't get taught about union busting and all this other dumb shit. And the WMS 702 said, "Damn, you right, Reggie. Always right, my brother." And then Picasso says they paid off the court, says, and stayed in business. Says, "I remember chicken companies like Pride and says like Pride employees, says, went on strike in Paris. And then and the boycott says, "Did you skip me?" Says, "Or it was censored." Now I see your comments. You didn't see me read your comments, boycott. Now I don't see none of your comments getting deleted. And boycott says I'll send send a screenshot. And then WMS says for sure. Red says we ain't baby boomers for sure. And she says you can watch Minnesota battles on the channel Mercata. What is that? Mercata Media. And that's a boycott type of content. I don't rock with your kind of content, boycott. I listen to a little bit and that's it. Velocity Cuz says that's why it's important, says the boycott holiday shopping. Says don't give these greedy ass executives fat bonuses. Exactly, bro. I don't be rocking with none of that shit. I don't. I know you. I don't be doing a lot of shopping. I ain't into all that shit. But it's cool to stay fresh, buy whatever you want to buy, but don't do it into expanding these corporations any further, especially when they don't give a damn about people. Everything's connected to giving some old bozos big returns because they push buttons and buy and trade and sell and don't do a damn thing. While people spend their hard-earned money to finance these corporations, and then all the welfare from your elected officials is given to these fools. Damn government constantly bailing these fools out, giving these fools deals and loans, banks loaning them shit. Like the hell with that, man. There needs to be some sort of thing that is given back to the people. And there needs to be further regulating. That's why I can't deal with politicians who just deregulate everything, like what you see currently with this dummy ass president, the fool who thinks it's important to put his name on everything. You see what he did to the Kennedy Center? This is a crazy fool, and it's about to quickly push to where now these old Republican idiots are starting to wake up, and they may end up starting impeaching people out of his cabinet. Because that crap he pulled with that damn release of the Epstein files, the little retarded broad Bondi, her days are numbered. This fool put everybody in there but himself. Boy, that boy is a nutcase. And the fact that he got so many little people willing to take the fall from him just shows you how big of a hoe people is, especially when you get rah ass people. that come in and talk rah 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 shit. Them fools are some conniving ass people who can't be trusted. And then I'm loving the way this shit unfolding with them clowns. And the boycott says Israeli coup enforcement says it's treason. And then because you're saying that's what our elected officials are doing, they're doing it for these foreigners who have no interest in this country. And it also says, and we just our systems have been infiltrated, man. Our systems been infiltrated. Look at the screenshot I sent. Okay, let me see what you send it to me on Instagram. Let me see what boycott sent me. I'll tell you, this lady sent me some of the craziest shit every motherfucking day. I'll be like, God damn. Whoa, look at this shit. Damn. I'll go to my Instagram. This girl bent her ass over. Hold on. Let me see. All right, let me see. Boycott says she wrote, says if the revolutionary becomes inevitable, says, all right, let me read it. She says if the revolution becomes inedible, yeah, so they did censor because I don't see it on there. It says, which appears to be the case, says, would you support a general strike or bloody fight? Says the choice is ours. Says I see many advocating for violence. Says, but I prefer strikes. It says the revolution becomes inedible. Yeah, just strike. Hold your money back because it's funny when you look at this shit. Is how much they depend on for you to buy things. They do everything to exclude people, to cut away from, to cut you out the picture of earning honest wage, livable wage, getting what you are entitled to. Like that's what I'm saying. Equitable return on shit. The fact people should be making higher wages than what they make. And the fact that, you have the companies that people work for that deny you to have this shit, but have these Wall Street people, these wealthy ass people that sit here and make these decisions that exclude the people who actually put in the work to returning this shit to people amongst their little cliques and their groups. And they ain't even a thing of just coming in and going about, wanting to make changes and doing nothing but become what these people are. Is that it's so much bloodshed. Bloodshed ain't changed a goddamn thing. What the people can change is not putting your money towards this shit. It's not putting your money towards this shit, but these companies rely on you to buy this shit. They create something, invent something, and then they look at it expecting certain number of units of this bullshit to be sold in order for them to celebrate and highlight that they have sold and earned $1 trillion worth of this shit because the fools of this country have went out there buying this shit and not putting up, the right type of protest and being like, no, we must get our fair piece of this shit. It's no different than how people have brought Target down to his knees at the Trump getting office. Target, and before Trump get in there, Target is all about this diversity and all this other shit. This fool get in here, everything changes with him. Same thing with these damn media agencies. Trump get in there, pull these fools' panties down. You find out these fools a bunch of little whores. And then but yeah, most definitely says it's labor. Says they wouldn't says there wouldn't be unions. Says if there wasn't unfair wages and unfair treatment. Says I just tell so that just tells you that post slavery was still attempts to bring back slavery. Absolutely, it was done on whites as well. And the boycott says it was censored. Says you didn't see it. Yeah, they censored that one. Says stop mindless consumerism. Yeah. Cause you're gonna spend money on certain things, but don't be mindless and just buying shit. Don't be one of the mindless fools that think you got to go out there and camp out for shit. You just gotta have it. Like F these fools. And when you gotta have it, you put all this excitement behind something. These corporations look like there's the demand and a real tight squeeze on the supply. Hey, cut the damn production line down. Let's make this shit scarce and bump the price because there is so much excitement about it. We'll put great promotion behind it. The promotion don't cost us too much of shit. Now, we look at it as $2 go about 10 cents into each product we sold. And that's how we'll recover the cost. And we ain't really doing. We use the social media promotion and advertisement. It's very cheap. It's at a bare minimum. We'll con these fools and that product that was now $105 we want to initially launch it. We'll raise it to 310. The demand and excitement is behind it. These people just gotta have it. And then we'll act like we're this is the we'll discontinue it. We'll fake that out. WMS says boycott says send that screenshot of you pee popping. The boycott ain't got no ass. She ain't got shit to pop. Boycott says, look at the screenshot says I sent, says I was censored. And the Velocity Cut says Target is still trying to recover fat. And that's crazy. You put that in there and I was just bringing up that Target shit. Or I don't know if you responded to me bringing up that Target shit in the way the boycott worked against Target. And many of these stores that abandoned their so-called DEI programs. DEI ain't nothing but a Donald and Epstein intern. That's what Pam Bondi is. She's a DEI. And then and she about to lose her job, end up poor. And then boycotting, they're saying, yes, it's interesting, huh? Says, how do you feel about being censored? I deal with censorship all the time. That's why I got so many damn channels on this mug. I think nothing of it doesn't stop anything. Just keep speaking the same point. And the boycott says I am not being vulgar. It says are threatening. It says just discussion, and they are scared. But you can still get the point out. Because sometimes even when I write shit, it's these damn little automated little whatever the things is that monitor what you say, and then they go in there reacting to the crap, and then all this little automation and AI crap that's going on, which I don't rock with none of. I don't rock with none of that Chat GTTP crap, whatever that crap called. I don't rock with nothing AI. And then and the Mark Summers says that's right, Picasso. And Picasso says there were a lot of grab and run says out the door in Target. And I like when I see people do that. Grab and smash and grab all this shit. And then boycott says, read the second comment, says they censored. And then says Nike is genius with the marketing. Yeah, Nike is genius, but Nike also has people captivated with its use of athletes as well. And that's one of the effective things that they worked on early. And that was just the thing to kind of get their brands off the ground. There's nothing wrong with that. It's effective. But at some point they get caught up in a little scheme with the rest of these fools. I did read your second part of the comment. Oh no, it says violence would benefit the Israeli coup. Says a general strike says would not, says it would cost them. Says more efficient, says more effective, in my opinion. Well, that's how black folks have always done that shit in the movements, in righteous movements, the king and them and everybody else is stay away from purchasing them. Be self-sufficient, be supportive of those within your community. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't spend within their community. They take it elsewhere, spend it with people who live on our communities and don't even buy in that shit, which a lot of foreigners. A lot of foreigners don't go into black business. But we'll go in there. I go into only kind of foreign business I go in there is to eat some food. I may want to try their food, but it ain't going to be an everyday thing. Because sometimes even like going into their establishments. And then WMS 702 says for sure, Pam Bondi says 100% DEI, which is a Donald Epstein intern. Says that's the B. Says that's the B that F'd you out of a job. And then Mark Summers says you like seeing looting. Says laugh out loud. Says you're not American. Says you're not American capitalist. Absolutely, that looting is an American thing. Taking back with what is rightfully yours versus paying these overinflated ass prices on this dirtbag stuff. So one of my colleagues is at home, says from heart surgery, and his wife works at Target. She recently fell in some water, and Walmart says, so you know what that means. Cha-ching. And then and hopefully it's not too. It's going to be hopefully the cha-ching don't cause her to say, "You heart attack fool, you better go find a nurse. I'm out." She gonna go live her best life. And then Mark Summers saying the Picasso thumbs up, and the boycott says now wasn't that scary? Woo woo, says they're pussies. And then Picasso and they're laughing at boycott's retirement plan. WMS, I'm about to get off here, folks. Says fell victim to a bunch of YouTube bitches. Says that take that extra dollar. Says for that lead title. Says and are straight up rats. Yeah, a lot of these fools is rats, man. That's why you don't reveal a lot to a lot of these people, man. And you kind of do your own thing, man. You just do your own thing. You watch about, and then this other thing when it comes to like rat shit. This other thing to watch with people. You watch people asking you asking for your comments and opinions on other people. That's the other thing. You got to watch slick ass people that do that shit. That's the thing you got to watch. It's so many of these slick ass fools who sit there and ask you that shit in an effort to start drama and bullshit. A lot of people get themselves caught up in that, making negative comments about people, responding in a negative way and to comments when people ask you about another person and to stir the pot on shit. So you got to watch people like that. And then let me see. Let me get up out of here. And he says white. And he says, hey, stop asking questions. I'm about to get out of here, folks. Says, do you know how to fall on water? Says in a big store. Now, I remember when I was in the army, we had a fool who, was it him? It might have been him or his wife when I was in the army, who one of them fell in water. Because that's what a lot of people's getting a lot of money over, that slip and fall crap. He says, sorry, Red, says, don't want to get you jammed up, says on these YouTube streets, laugh out loud. No, I don't get jammed up. If I'm going to say something about a person, it's going to be my opinion versus somebody asking a question with somebody else's name to ask my opinion on it. Then I won't respond to that, because it's a person who really got an issue with a person, but then to get you involved. And then you be hearing these fools that record your conversations. So you got to watch what people ask you when you're in conversations, because a lot of people get themselves caught up and then find themselves talking to some old rat ass bastard. And whether you're talking on the phone or in person with this person, they sitting there recording what you're saying and shit. Even a lot of these street clowns, fake so-called street clowns of I ain't gonna even say the new era, because all eras are probably like that, who sit there and do that shit. And the boycott says batteries die, says listen in double speed to catch up. All right, boycott, but by the time you hear me read this, the show is over, because I'm out. Peace.